As long as I've known you as Shay. Now you're running for mayor. I've noticed all your posts, they all say Fredrisha. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me about the change, why the change, and why that was important.
Well, so I've always been called Shay since I was like maybe a toddler. I was called Shay because of my middle name. And, when we met, you and I worked in entertainment together. And so I just went by my nickname. There was no sense in me saying my first name for entertainment purposes. However, when I decided to go to law school and, got back into academia, of course, in school, I encouraged people to call me by my first name, Fredrisha, because we were in a professional setting. And then when I decided to run for mayor, my father actually sat me down and talked to me about my name. You know, my dad's name is Frederick, and I think that he is very proud to have me carrying his name. And so one question that he asked me was, are you going to start using your first name now? And, I knew that meant he wanted me to. And so I told him, yes, I would. Okay. And I mean, that's appropriate. My name is Fredrisha. And growing up, I allowed people to call me Shay, especially in school, because people acted like they could not pronounce it. But now that I'm an adult and I'm mostly communicating with other adults who should be able to say Fredrisha.
Yes, okay. So it sounds like your dad kind of called and bullied you into using his name, because you're almost like a female junior?
I guess so. I'm the oldest girl. I'm the second oldest child. I have a big brother, and my big brother is not a junior per se. So we both have similar names. My big brother's name is Fredwan, and my name is Fredrisha. So I guess I'm kind of like the female junior. Yeah, okay. I'm proud of that. I'll take that. And also, when I get married, if I get married, I expect for my husband to take my last name.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I'm joking.
Okay, I was hoping so. Okay.
But if I did, it should not be an issue if that's something that I want.
Well, 9 times out of 10, it will be an issue, just to let you know.
Really?
Yeah.
You think so?
Of course. I mean, you don't think so? And have you not heard that type of response when you've said it?
No, not really. I believe that any man who sees me valuable enough to make me his wife should also see the value. If I say that it's important for me to be able to continue to carry my last name and that I want him to carry my last name as well, I would hope that he would see value in that. If not, if that's something I actually wanted, I probably wouldn't marry him. I'm not excited about marriage, just to be clear already. Like, I already don't see myself getting married.
Yes. Now, is that going to be a problem in politics? You know how you kind of, people want to see the family, and you're talking about, I'm gonna do A and B for families, but then you don't actually have a family of your own.
I do have a family of my own.
No, I mean, you don't want a family of your own in terms of a husband and kids, the typical American family per se. Now, do you see that as hard to, kind of communicate with people?
No, because none of my career goals are attached to a man or me having a man in my life. And also, I don't need to fit a certain image in order to do the job that I'm signing up to do. The only thing that should matter is that I'm competent and that I fulfill what I say I'm going to fulfill. I have a family, I have parents, I have siblings, I have nieces and nephews, I have a child. But I'm not going to run and get married just because the public wants me to have a husband. It don't work like that.
Okay, so Michelle Obama.
Okay.
Okay. Do you see Barack taking on Michelle Obama's last name? Barack Johnson?
Well, clearly that's not something that Michelle Obama wanted. And so, Ross, my point is, we're in 2022, so I understand that a lot of people have very outdated views, or like, what do you call it? When people, traditional. A lot of people have traditional views, but once again, we're in 2022, and things are very different now than they were, let's say, in the 50s or the 60s. it's okay for a young woman to be career focused. It's okay for a young woman not to want to have children. It's okay for a young woman not to want to get married. None of those things equate to success for really anybody. And you know, that's not everybody's goal. And I want young women to know that that's all right.
Okay. So what I've found, you seem to be a woman of power. Okay.
Thank you.
And making a statement like that comes from a woman of power, right? But what I find is that there's a unbalance of a woman of power and then also still wanting to be, you know, treated like a lady. So no, and what I mean by that is, you know, the old school way of, you know, when you go out, a man pays, and you know, pulling out the chair, opening the door, you know. So there's a slight off balance. A woman of power. Now, are you going to take on that full male role model, or that role?
I completely disagree with you. I don't think that there is an imbalance at all. Just because a woman is powerful or career focused doesn't mean that she's not a lady. I am still very much a lady. Don't get it twisted. And if any man is going to be a part of my life, he's going to have to be a gentleman. You know, just because I'm career focused or I have attained success, that does not mean that I don't want a man to treat me like I'm a woman. I am a woman. You know,
Hear me roar.
I mean, I don't have to roar. Like, it's obvious and pretty evident that I am a woman. Some men do still open doors and pull out chairs, and I appreciate that. I don't think that that's necessary, but I do appreciate it. Now, regarding like paying the tab at dinner, because you mentioned that, if a man asks me out, he's supposed to pay for it. Like, those are still very basic things. But at the end of the day, I can pay for my own food. I can pay for my own anything.
So on the other hand, if you ask him out, then you're going to pay for it.
I really don't ask people out, you know, but I have definitely paid the tab. Like, that's not something that I'm opposed to. If I want to treat someone, I treat someone.
Yes. Okay. So there's that balance that we kind of talked about.
I mean, if we both got money, if we both can pay for it, but, you know, if I am actually altering my schedule because you would like to take me out, I don't anticipate altering my schedule, spending time with you, and then you saying, okay, well, let's go Dutch. You pay half the tab.
Exactly.
And honestly, if that happens, I probably wouldn't see him again. Because I'll pay it, but, you know, I expect to be treated a certain way.
Yes. Okay. I agree. So what's the most important thing in your life right now?
My career.
Your career?
Yep.
And what career is that? Because you have two careers. Is that correct?
Not really. I think I have pretty much streamlined my career at this point. So I already transitioned from TV and film. So right now I'm studying to sit for the California bar exam. I'm already a legal advocate. I work through legal nonprofit organizations to help people in various ways. So when I pass this bar exam and I become a licensed legal advocate, then I'll be a full-fledged lawyer. So I'm going to remain a lawyer even after I become mayor. Our term of mayor, or our job of mayor in Inglewood, it's really like a part-time job. So I intend to fulfill the duties that I need to fulfill for the residents of Inglewood. And then I also want to practice law.
Okay.
And they're both intertwined. You know, they're both legislative focused. We create law via case precedents and the judicial process. And then being mayor, you're sitting on a legislative body and you actually write the laws for the city.
Yes. Okay. And when I said two careers, I was actually referring to law and then also running for mayor. Now, I hear you just said right now, and I've heard you say this before, even on your Instagram, you say the next mayor for Inglewood. Now, I know a lot of people do that. They're running for a position and they say, I'm the next. Now, do you really see, I mean, is that speaking it into existence? If and I don't want to put any negative, but if it don't happen, do you have to retract that statement? How does that work?
I don't see that as negative at all, Ross.
But what happens if another candidate wins?
I'm saying I don't think that it's negative that you are asking this question in this way.
Oh, okay.
But I do view myself as the next mayor of Inglewood. I definitely view myself as the future regarding leadership in that city. So like you said, what happens if I am not elected mayor of Inglewood? I'm going to continue. Like the work that I'm already doing in the community, I will continue to do the work that I'm doing. The advocacy that I'm doing, I will continue to do it. In the next election, I'll run once again. So the mission is not complete if I'm unsuccessful at this election. You know, he still has to see me, or whoever wins has to see me at the next election.
Okay. And how is that actually going right now?
It's going great. I'm getting a lot of support from the community, and I think that that's what matters most.
Yes, okay. Now, how important is it for you and the current mayor to have some type of relationship during a transition? Say you become mayor, you know, we saw Obama transition and Trump come in, and that was an awkward type of weird transition. Yeah. How important is that transition to be cohesive, and you know, there's a friendly, hey, this is what's going on, you know, I'm passing the baton?
I think that it's important. However, I don't really see it being very amicable simply because of the way that the current mayor has already engaged with me. Prior to me even deciding to run for mayor, I requested a meeting with him. I just wanted to sit down with him, you know, as a young community member who is aware of certain issues in our community, and talk to him about different ways in which we might be able to resolve those issues. And he just flat out rejected my request to meet with him. He's also done illegal things. I don't know if you want to go into that in this conversation. So it hasn't been a very friendly experience at all. But I do think that it would be important because, as you said, when he is elected out of office, then it would help the community for him to be conscious enough to actually pass down whatever information that might be beneficial for me in that role. But I don't anticipate him doing that, and I think that it's okay, and it still won't prevent me from doing the job well. Okay.
So I'll ask you a question and we'll move on. You said he's done things illegal. Is that speculation, or do you have, proof behind that? Let's say you see him with a woman at a grocery store and you think he's cheating on his wife. I don't even know if he's married. But you find later that's actually his sister. Oh. So this simple, easy question was, is that factual or is that just your own speculation?
No, it's factual. I have receipts. Okay. First of all, the California Secretary of State's office won't even send files or packages to my house via mail anymore, because on 2 different occasions when they attempted to send me files regarding my candidacy, important files, my packages were intercepted. On top of that, if you go to our city council meetings and you actually understand certain legal processes and protocols, then you will be able to see that on several occasions and a lot of times they are breaking the law. They're doing things that are against the Brown Act. They're doing things that are not in tune with other acts as well. And so, that's blatant. When I get up and I speak, every single time, never to fail, when I'm finished speaking at the city council meetings, he follows behind me to tell the community that either I'm lying or I don't know what I'm talking about. So he has a privilege sitting up there because what they say doesn't necessarily have to be factual. So he spends a lot of time up there lying. And so the receipts are there. The meetings are recorded. So if you understand the law in certain regards, then you'll see that, he's definitely breaking the law even in that position. And it's funny that you brought up seeing him with another woman and he might be married. All those things have been going on. This man has been, people have said that he has harassed them, sexually harassed them. There's currently 2 lawsuits that are active against him right now. One from someone who was working on his team, who was his assistant, who he did have a sexual relationship with. These are things that are unethical, and just in his position, in anyone's position of authority, they should not be engaging in that manner with their subordinates. But her allegations are very extensive, and for instance, if that lawsuit is $20 million and she wins that lawsuit, he's not paying for it. The city of Inglewood is paying for it. That's coming out of taxpayers' money. We're responsible for paying for it. And so at this point, he's a huge liability to our community. He's more of a liability than he is an asset.
Okay. So what triggered you to want to run for mayor?
First, I started with just really getting engaged in the city business. Going through the agendas and reading all the documents that they would be covering. And then once I started to realize the different things that were occurring that should not be occurring, I started with wanting someone to step up to the plate and serve the community right and in an ethical way. And so that was a couple of years, and nobody stepped up to the plate. Then the last election that we had some other candidates run up against them, and I was excited about that. I definitely voted for a candidate other than our current mayor. However, they were unsuccessful. And so here we are several years later, actually. And, I just decided that if no one else was going to step up to the plate, then I should. I actually started to feel obligated. When I graduated from law school and my time freed up, I really did feel obligated because I know that I have the proper knowledge, I have the skill set, and I also have the desire to serve the community of Inglewood. So it's not something that I necessarily wanted to do or that I've always dreamed of. I just felt like I had a duty to step up.
Okay. So you speak of corruption within, what would you call it, the mayor's office, I guess, if you will. How can we trust that once you get in there and things start coming across your desk and there's options of, I can do this, or I can, do certain things above the law. How can we trust that you don't do the same thing?
The option to do things above the law is never present. That's the first thing. Secondly, look at my track record. No one has a reason to believe that I will engage in my role as mayor as anyone who has prior to me. I'm not them. So that's the first thing I always ask people. First of all, please don't blame me for the wrong acts that others done before me. I'm not responsible for those acts. And you can only hold me accountable for the things that I do myself. So look at my track record. I'm someone who helped start the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm someone who has spent the past 8 years of my life actually volunteering in the community from LA to Inglewood to assist. I'm volunteering. I haven't been paid for any of these jobs. So I have nothing to gain from going into this position where I can actually be in a decision-making position to help the people that I've already been fighting for. I'm there for them. I'm there to be their voice. I'm there to be their advocate. And, I have good character. So my character is very different from anyone else's character. I'm an individual, and it's not about trusting me not to do what they did. It's about actually giving me a chance to show you what type of leader I am and what I will do in that position.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned being a part of starting the Black Lives Matter movement. That gives me the impression that you care about the Black community.
Of course.
Okay. How and why is that important to voters in Inglewood?
How is the fact that I care about the Black community important?
Yes.
Inglewood is a Black community. Inglewood is a Black and brown community. We are 99% Black and brown. So it would benefit our community to have someone in that position of power that actually has centered them, understands them, and that will put their needs first.
Okay. As a person running for mayor, do you have an idea of the census of other nationalities that are right there in the Inglewood community? Mm-hmm. And can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. We have a little over 50% Hispanic. We have 45% Black or African American. Then we have about 3% that are mixed race, so they're probably Black and brown mixed together. And then we have 1% white population right now. However, gentrification is definitely in full force in Inglewood, so I anticipate the population of white community members to raise.
So you mentioned, and I know the Black Lives Matter movement is very focused on the Black community and also the Latino community, amongst others, but that's the top priority. Mm-hmm. How can the non-Black and Latino communities trust that you're going to also look out for their needs?
So first of all, just because I say that I care about the Black community doesn't mean that I care any less about any other community or racial group. I am someone who believes in humanity first and foremost. I'm a people person. I believe in people power. So race is just a classification that unfortunately has been made into a class system here in America. So I'm not really concerned about what race anybody is. And this goes beyond me being mayor. This is in my legal practice. This is in me being a person, just a regular community member, a regular person. I don't care about what race you are. Right is right, wrong is wrong. And I advocate for the rights of human beings.
My little cousin was falsely accused, and it really bothered me. And I thought to myself, wow, I wish I could do something about this. And at one point, I dropped a tear, you know? Yeah. As being a lawyer, what has impacted or touched you, you know, fighting for someone?
Everything. The judicial system is really messed up. It really is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. I work for the Public Defender's Office in Inglewood and in Compton. I had the opportunity to work in adult court and juvenile court, and it is heartbreaking, especially in juvenile court. So every day when I would leave work, so I was going to school at night. So when I would leave work, I would sit on the phone with my dad as I drove an hour and a half to Orange County, and I would cry. I would sit on the phone with him and cry because of the cases that you know, I was engaging with during the day. It really is sad. Our judicial system is working the way that it was structured to work. But I believe that we need to transition our judicial system into a restorative justice form.
So in your legal practice, what is going to be your first objective? What's your first goal to make?
What is my first goal?
Yeah, what's your first goal to just conquer the world and make something happen?
Right. What is my first goal when I get my license, my law license? I don't have a first goal per se. I am definitely looking forward to litigating though. I think that I will be practicing criminal defense as well as civil law and business law. But I especially look forward to filing my first lawsuit and going before a judge and arguing it and actually winning on behalf of my client.
Okay. Now, do you have a client in mind that's on standby waiting for you to graduate?
No, I don't.
Okay, because when you spoke of it, it was like fighting for my client, like that person just waiting like,
I'm sure plenty of people are waiting for me to obtain my license so that I can really help them. A lot of people are. But no, I don't have a client in mind.
Okay, well, I can say you've helped me with paperwork, and even in the entertainment business, I sent you information and I was impressed. Because I've sent it to other people and they kind of breezed through it, but you actually read through it, broke it down for me. I'm like, wow, she really knows all this language. I didn't even know what it meant, but you knew what it meant.
I really like contract law as well. So yeah, I don't mind reading a lot, and I enjoy doing things like that.
So tell me, what can we expect from Fredrisha, Shay, Dixon, in the upcoming years?
Okay, so in the next maybe 4 years, such a recent time like that, definitely I intend to become mayor of Inglewood, California. And it is going to be my complete goal and focus to put the people of Inglewood first and to actually help our small businesses, which is what our government should already be doing. Unfortunately, our government has been showing favoritism to three large corporations that are billion-dollar corporations that don't need the city's help, and they have completely neglected our small businesses. So we continue to have small businesses in Inglewood close because, for one, they have been impacted by the pandemic, and for two, our city won't assist them with anything. So I'm going to change that. The same way that our city has the power to access federal funds and state funds and different grants that don't have to be paid back to complete whatever projects they want to complete, they can do the same things to help our small businesses. It's all about what our leadership decides to do in those positions. So for me, it's important to assist our residents in any way that I can, to assist our youth. Education is something that has been neglected in Inglewood as well. So it's important for me to actually help keep our schools open that are being closed down for financial gain. It's important for me to be able to help the next generations that are coming up. Like, I want to help build the next leaders. I'm not someone who wants to be in a leadership position and then wants to stay in that position forever. I don't. I have other career goals. This is just the beginning for me. So my career goals extend past the local level, but they're all legislative focused. So for where I want to go, this is the appropriate entry for me.
Let's go back to being a lawyer. Lawyers, they have to be argumentative, right? You kind of go back and forth and argue.
I don't think that lawyers have to be
point.
Argumentative. Lawyers have to be persuasive.
Okay.
And so I think that there's a difference between being argumentative and persuasive.
Okay, good answer. Thanks for correcting me. I appreciate that. So when did you first realize that you wanted to be a lawyer?
I first realized I wanted to be a lawyer when I was in the first grade.
First grade?
Yes, first grade. First grade, maybe like 6 years old. At school, one day, my teacher, she told me that I should be a lawyer. And I didn't know what that was, but she explained to me what a lawyer was and what reasons she believed that I should be a lawyer. And so that day when I went home from school, I ran into my aunt's house instead of running. We lived next door to each other. So we lived in this apartment, and the apartment next to us was my aunt's, and then right next to her, actually, another aunt lived there. So when my sibling and I and my cousins would get off the school bus, we would pretty much run into any of these houses, right? So this day in particular, I ran into my aunt's house, and she greeted us at the door, and I was so excited, and I was like, "Auntie, I know what I want to be when I grow up." And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "A lawyer." And she said, "You can't be a lawyer." And I was like, "Why?" And she said, "Because you're a Christian, and Christians can't be lawyers because lawyers lie. And do you want to go to hell?" And I was like, no. As a 6-year-old, I really believed that I would go to hell if I became a lawyer. So from that point on, I just never really thought about it again, to be honest. I started to engage more in my creative side, and I've always enjoyed writing and music, so I kind of ventured in that direction. And so it didn't dawn on me that this was what I originally wanted for myself until maybe 8 years ago when I first started organizing in the Black Lives Matter movement. About 1 year in, I realized I needed a law degree. I realized I needed a legal education. I realized that I needed to position myself so that I could really help my community legally. And so, yeah, all those memories from when I was 6 years old started running back in my head. Like, wow, I remember I wanted to be a lawyer. And I was a college dropout at that point, you know, a single mother. Didn't know how I was going to accomplish that goal, but when something is your destiny or your purpose, then the universe is always going to find a way to open up doors for you. And that's is exactly what happened for me.
Okay. So your aunt, what do she, or your aunt and your family, what do they think about it now? Do they still think you're going to hell, or are they like, okay, there's a New Testimony, or what, the Old Testament, you know, the Old Bible, the New Bible, or whatever?
Yeah.
That don't make sense, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes. Well, my aunt is actually deceased now, but she is someone who is very near and dear to my heart, and I have always looked up to her and admired her, and she is greatly missed. But my family, my father is extremely proud. Actually, both of my parents are extremely proud. I can't really comment on how the rest of my family feels about me overcoming adversity and obtaining a law degree. They haven't been vocal about that.
I like to play a little game.
Okay.
So I'm gonna tell you what I see, and you tell me what it really is.
Okay.
I see a young lady that just came out of JCPenney's for stealing a shirt and getting caught by the police.
Woo! Really? That's what they look like?
Well, that's just a perception that it could look like.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what's really going on in this image?
So this is an image that was taken at a direct action of civil disobedience, I guess you would call it, that I organized in about, that picture was maybe 2014 or 2015. So this action in particular was called Occupy LAPD, where after the autopsy results were released of community member Ezell Ford, he was killed by the LAPD, and the autopsy results proved that he was killed laying on the ground on his stomach, and the bullets they entered his body at point blank range. So he was laying on the ground, and the police officer put his gun in this young man's back and shot him in the back. The muzzle print was actually burned into this young man's back. And so, you know, this is, the community had already been demanding that the officers be fired and that different actions take place, but nothing happened. So at that point, you know, something came over me, and I decided to go to the police department and demand to speak to the chief of police. They informed us that he wasn't there, and so they tried to tell me, well, he won't be back until tomorrow. And so I said, well, you know, I'll wait. And so we ended up camping out. So the occupation actually lasted 18 days, but on this day in particular, we were attempting to deliver a letter to the chief at that time, the chief of police. And you know, the police department this is public building. Like, the public has the right to go in and out of this building. And in fact, the public was going in and out of this building. However, they were trying to prevent me and really all of the activists that were there that day from entering the building. So they put up these barricades. And one of my comrades had gotten past the barricade and was trying to enter. And as she was trying to enter, you know, the police grabbed her. I attempted to jump over the guardrail, which it wasn't an attempt. I had on a dress, I had on heels, but somehow some type of superhuman power and energy took over me, and I jumped over that barricade. And when I jumped over, all three of those police officers pretty much attacked me, grabbed me, arrested me. I see one of my comrades in the background, and the scariest.
As they should.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Who, as the police should?
Yeah, they should.
No, they shouldn't have. Why? I didn't break a law. I wasn't charged with anything.
So,
they arrested me that day. They drove me to 3 different police departments where they had extra police vehicles following. And every time we arrived at a police department and got out the car, they had a police officer carrying a camera that was recording everything. So they would take me and walk me through one police department, put me back in a police car, drive me to another police department, walk me through that police department, put me in the car, and they took me to 3 different ones this day.
And why would they do that?
You have to ask them. I want to know as well.
What's your, because when you're in that situation, you have a gut feeling. What was your gut feeling?
I didn't have a gut feeling. I didn't know what was happening. I've never been arrested like this. I've never been in a situation like this before. However, I knew that I didn't break a law. And so it was an illegal detainment. It was an illegal arrest as well. And then, as I said, they ended up not charging me with anything. So if anything, they did it to take me away from the space in which the protest was happening at. But I wanted to say, when you showed me that picture, the scariest part about that picture, and I don't look at that picture much, actually. I really don't look at it at all. Because if you look in the corner of that picture, you see that kid screaming.
Yes.
That's my child. So my child was right there and witnessed all of that. So when they grabbed me, he screamed.
That's little Tommy?
Yes. He's probably maybe 10 years old in that picture. So when the police grabbed me, he screamed out, "No, let my mom go." And when he screamed that out, and I didn't know this until afterwards, because when I got out of jail, there were media outlets there, but one of the journalists sent me a video to show me what was transpiring. But when my son yelled out for them to let go of his mom, the police officer, the white one that you see right there, that is grabbing me like this, he reached for his gun. You know, at the sound of this kid's scream to let his mother go, he reached for his gun. You know, and so when I saw that video, it just kind of, man, it did something to me, because here I am out there on the front lines, putting my body on the front lines to try to prevent the police from killing another black child. And then a police grabs his gun because my son screamed. You know, it let me see exactly how dangerous the work that I was doing really is.
Now, what are you saying in this picture?
Probably let me go. I was probably telling them to let me go. Nobody had the right to put their hands on me.
Yeah. In this picture, it says, "I'm Fredrisha Dixon, and I fight for the black community."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very accurate. You know, I am very proud of my identity and my heritage. I am a descendant of enslaved black people on this land right here in America, only 2 generations removed from chattel slavery. My father's mother was forced to pick cotton in Mississippi. In fact, she wasn't allowed to even get an education because she had to pick cotton in Mississippi. So that's something that I'm always taking with me. I'm a black person. I am someone who is a descendant of someone who's enslaved in this country. That history and that heritage, not only them being enslaved, but everything, all of the beautiful qualities and the skill sets that they had and just weren't able to share with the world in a prominent way, I carry that with me. I stand on their shoulders. And so my legal advocacy, to be honest, it really is for my people. It's for my community. I will never bite my tongue about that. There is a piece of legislation that is very important to me, and that is a reparations bill. It is something that those of us who descend from enslaved people are rightfully owed. And the people who are in power right now aren't going to pass or write that legislation for us. We have to write and get that legislation passed ourselves. So in order for us to do that, we have to put people like me in positions of power to be able to write it and get it passed. So yeah, you're right. That picture does say, "I'm Fredrisha Dixon and I fight for the black community."
So reparation, as great as it sounds, I hear a little bit from both sides. One side, we want reparations. It's been far too long. Give us reparations. Another side is saying, you know, how does reparation look like? Where does it come from?
It looks the same way. This, however, hundreds of millions of dollars that our Congress just sent to the Ukraine, it looks the same way as the hundreds of millions or billions of dollars that our Congress has given to the banking system to bail them out. It looks the same way as the legislation that was passed for the Japanese people when they were placed in internment camps here in America. It looks the same way as the reparations plan that was given to the Native Americans. And I can keep going on. This is a legit legal challenge. It's not like we're asking for something that we don't deserve or aren't owed, because we do. It's a legit legal action. So anyone who is opposed to descendants of enslaved people receiving reparations, they should also be opposed to all of the other races of people who have already been awarded reparations. And if they don't know exactly how the descendants are going to get reparations, they need to just go read about how the other people got reparations. Because this might be going a little further down the rabbit hole, but like, let's be clear, the US dollar is not worth anything. It's worth what we give it, the value that we give it. It's not backed by any natural resource at all. And so our federal system, our Federal Reserve System, they're printing this money off. You know, they're creating the money to send out. What makes us different? Although I'm not saying print up new bills, that's not even necessary. We have enough money already to actually be able to pay reparations to descendants of enslaved people. And it's actually the ethical thing to do. And America is not going to be able to go in a good direction until we actually heal that past. We have to address the issue of chattel slavery in this country. Our government needs to actually be remorseful about it, because if they aren't remorseful about it, then what's going to prevent that from happening again? And then we need to rectify it. So anytime you bring a court case, there are certain elements that must be there in order for you to even be able to get that case into court. So the first element is going to be standing, right? It's like you have to have a stake in whatever the outcome of this controversy is going to be. But the most important portion of it, in my opinion, is the redress portion. So whatever this claim is that you're bringing in front of the court has to be able to give you some type of recourse. They have to give you some type of remedy. There has to be some recourse or remedy available. And there is. So there is nothing that is stopping us other than the people who are already in positions of power stopping us from bringing forth this legal challenge or writing the legislation and getting the legislation passed.
So in this picture, it's saying, I fight for the black community, but the white community also loved me too.
Yeah, that's what I told you. Like, I'm about human rights. I'm about people. So this right here, these are some of my constituents in Inglewood. They live in my community and they support my candidacy for mayor. But yeah, like you said, they're white, and so it doesn't matter what color you are. As mayor, I'm going to be advocating for the entire community of Inglewood. Now, as a lawyer, I get to choose what type of cases I take. I get to choose who I advocate for. I get to choose what body of law that I practice. Now, I really want to learn human rights law. That's something that I want to tap into and be able to learn and understand and actually practice. Because I think that we have a lot of people here, black people specifically in America, who have been violated. Their human rights have been violated by our government. And until we have the proper education and skill set to be able to challenge that authority, then we're going to stay in the position that we are in. So when I say I fight for the black community, I mean like my legal advocacy, that's first and foremost. Every other race of people got people in power fighting for them. We are the people who are lacking representation. We are the people who are lacking a voice. So that's what I am. I already am that. I'm already a representative of the community. I'm already a voice and an advocate of the community. And as I continue in my career, I just hope that that this only expands and that I'm able to attain more skills and more knowledge that will help me to continue to help pull up the Black community. That is a goal of mine.
Okay.
And honestly, I also want to say this. All non-Black people, I expect for you to be our allies. Be our allies in this fight. You know, you don't gotta be Black to fight for Black rights. You don't have to be Black to believe that Black people are owed reparations. You should be our ally.
What did you say to them to convince them to vote for you? How did that conversation go?
I don't remember. I can't say word for word verbatim what our conversations have been. But when I show up as my full and authentic self, people normally like who I am. They like what I'm saying. They like the work that I have done and that I am doing and that I'm going to continue to do. So when I'm talking to people, it has nothing to do with race. I'm not saying anything race related when I'm talking to my constituents in Inglewood. For us, the same issues that the white people in Inglewood are the same issues that the Black people are having, which are the same issues that the Hispanic community is having. So we are all one in Inglewood.
So when I see this picture, what I see is a resident that's having a problem with some zoning or growing an orange tree, and you promise that if you become mayor, they'll get that orange tree in their backyard.
First of all, I haven't promised anybody anything, and I won't promise anybody anything. So I don't have gifts or or anything to give people for voting for me. So this really boils down to like just knowing who's going to be the best person for the job, right? So when you look at what our legislative body does or what our mayor does, so writing laws, amending laws, amending our charter, you know, creating different policies that may hurt or impact our community. So it's about the residents choosing someone who is going to make the decision that the residents would want made. And my ear is to the streets only because I'm out there in the streets with the community. I'm there. So I'm not going to be in that position assuming what people in Inglewood need or want. They've already told me. I live in Inglewood. I experience these same issues myself. So I also know what is needed there. And then also, every issue that I'm advocating for, these aren't even necessarily issues that impact me. Actually, two of the main issues that I'm advocating for right now don't impact me at all. Not one bit. I wouldn't be impacted by the legislation either way. However, my neighbors are impacted by it. My neighbors have an issue with it. So if they don't know the process of resolving that issue, or they don't have the desire or the time to do it, to resolve the issues, I do. This is what I'm signing up for. And I fully believe that I'm walking in my purpose. Like, this is what I was put on this earth to do. And yeah, I feel good about it.
Okay, so there's a saying, comes from a rapper, and they say is Inglewood is up to no good. When you become mayor, what will the next saying come from the next
We've
rapper?
already began to change the narrative. So one of my taglines is Inglewood is up to some good. If that hoodie that I got on, that's what it says. Inglewood is up to some good. All of my shirts, all of my merch, Inglewood is up to some good. So we are consciously trying to change that narrative because I do believe that people have the wrong idea about Inglewood. What most people know about Inglewood comes from TV and film. Like you said, that song, Inglewood always up to no good. You know, and that's what they believe. But in actuality, the people of Inglewood are up to some good. Like we are a caring and loving community. We are a community of people who have the same desires as every other community. You know, we want to raise our families. We don't want the government overstepping its boundaries and coming into our households and invading our privacy or any of our rights. We have what I think a lot of people in Inglewood, outside of Inglewood, don't know is like Inglewood isn't a poor community that's filled with like the projects and poverty. So we do have a poverty stricken community. I will be clear about that. The median income of an Inglewood resident is only $27,000. That's not a lot of money to live off of, especially in Los Angeles County. However, a lot of our residents are doing well. First of all, we don't have any housing projects in Inglewood. So it's not that type of community. You don't drive in Inglewood and then see a lot of groups of people loitering on the side of the street, selling drugs, drinking. You don't see that in Inglewood. Inglewood isn't that kind of community.
Are the gangs active?
Gangs are everywhere in Los Angeles County. Gangs are active everywhere.
Is it getting better in Inglewood?
I believe so. I don't see our residents who are either affiliated with gangs or who grew up in certain neighborhoods, so they are deemed to be a part of these gangs, as being any issues in our community. They're a part of our community just like everybody else, and they deserve for our city government to center them the same way the rest of us deserve to be centered. And they also don't need to be excluded and criminalized. And if we aren't providing different resources and opportunities to these people, then how do we expect for them to actually become active and what is the word I'm looking for? What is that word when they say, oh, how do we expect for them to be productive members of our community, right? So we don't see gangs like that. Like, they're not hanging out on the streets. I'm sure there are gang members everywhere in Los Angeles County, let's be clear. But they're not like outside hanging on the block with their bandana. Like, it's not like in the movies, you know, where they're like, where you from? Like, you can't walk on this street. Like, it's not that at all. Actually, they're business owners and different leaders in our community, to be clear. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes. Real quick, because we got to wrap up, but do you have a plan to make sure that young people are not going towards gangs and they have other opportunities in, besides gangs? Because usually gangs is their only option sometimes, or that's the center of their life,
right?
You know,
because of where they live.
Yeah. What can you do to make other things the center of their life?
Thank you for asking that. I think that's a wonderful question, and that's something that our current leadership has completely neglected as well. So we don't have any money in our budget going towards anything social services related. Nothing. So that's why I keep saying, like, I'm centering the people of Inglewood. So we do need training programs. You know, we need programs that are also going to intervene or to deter altogether any type of gang activity. We have to provide them something. It starts with education. So we have to provide them education and then resources and tools as well if we really want them to be productive in our communities. So I'm going to invest in social services. We need to invest in social services, period. You know, our police department currently gets over 60% of our entire budget. And really, when you look at what they are doing in our community, I can't really see where the money is going or a valid reason to give that department that much of our money. If we could divest some of those funds, we can invest some of those funds into our community. We can invest some of those funds into education. We can invest some of those funds into social services programs. We can invest some of those funds into even helping some of our small businesses. There's so much that we can do, but the leadership has to want to do it, right? And so I am that leader who wants to do it and who is going to do it.
Okay, well, I just want to thank you. I know you know me as a friendly, joking all the time type of person, but I asked you some really serious questions.
Yes, you did, and I was shocked. I'm like, Ross, why didn't you tell me that you were going to ask me these serious questions prior?
Yes, you know, I mean, but these are not questions for me. These are questions that I feel the community would want to know. Right. You know what I mean? I
agree.
And so yeah, I'm sorry if some of them were a little difficult.
Thank you. Actually, nothing that you asked me was difficult. And I welcome challenging questions because, you know, the job of mayor is a challenging job. And I'm here for it. I'm here for the challenges. So thank you.
Definitely. And thank you for being such a cool person, cool friend, and for loving me the way you do.
Aw, you are very selfless. You're always willing to help people. I know me, you're always willing to help me. You really don't tell me no when I ask for your help. You're very understanding. You've always been a very genuine and good friend to me. I'm very grateful for you. I really am. You have played a huge part in my life. You were one of the first people that I met when I moved here 10 years ago, and you have remained true to who you are. So I'm very grateful for you.
Well, definitely. Thank you. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
You know, we on the spot. I said we